What is up, Honey Badger Nation? Welcome to episode 254 of Expert Mentors Live, and we are in for a treat today. I'm excited. You know, I always get so much out of these conversations, and I'm just guilty of overtaking notes, right? Like everywhere we're at, we're taking notes. I mean, I'll be in a coaching session, and I'm like just notes, and it's no different with Expert Mentors. And I know today is going to be no different. So welcome, Courtney. Great to have you on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, John, for having me. I'm so excited for today.
Yeah. And so what we were saying before we came on, I was like, Nicole referred you in. I know this is going to be fire. So I'm really excited to jump in. I would love for you to give a little context. You know, it's so hard these days, with, 15,000 that we can count in the Honey Badger Nation. It goes so much deeper than that. Amazing. And so it's really hard to, know who's who. And definitely I know that these amazing Honey Badgers are going to want to get to know you. So if you can give a little bit of background, and then I'm be super excited to jump into today's.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, John. I want to start by saying that I'm so excited to be on this platform. When I first joined EXP about 2.5 years ago, I was following you, John Kitchens, and then it was so good to see your growth and how you were able to pour into different agents. And that was something that I really enjoyed about EXP. And I still love to this day being here. So I've been licensed about 5.5 years now. Fairly new, it feels like, but I've been able to accomplish a lot within my, second year within real estate. I became Atlanta's top producing realtor from 2020 until now. And then just last year, in my first year within EXP, I was an icon agent, which is super exciting back in 2021. And then last year I was able to do NAR, National Association of Realtors Magazine 30 Under 30. And so excited. I was able to speak at EXP shareholders. And so I'm really, really happy to be on this call. And the basis of my business has been my sphere of influence, but also social media. And so I've learned early on that, branding yourself, but also niching down to a specific market on who you believe you can best help based on your background is what really drove my success.
You're saying all the things that are, the sweet music to my ears, especially using a lot of, the marketing lingo, because it's, say it all the time, right? It's never the best real estate agent that wins. And it's always the best marketer. And it doesn't matter what regulations come our way. It doesn't matter, the climate of the market, doesn't matter location, doesn't matter seasonality. When you have a marketing mindset, there is no obstacle in your way. And so I think, love to hear from you where that came from, because we say it all the time, right? You have to, become a world-class, obsessed about marketing that just happens to do something, right? And so just happens to recruit agents, just happens to work with buyers and sellers, just happens to do whatever.
Yeah, whatever your focus is generating on at that time.
So Courtney, where did that marketing come from? Where did you, because it's a skill, so it has to be learned, but from a marketing perspective, where was that like, oh, hey, that's where it started making sense to me?
Yeah, I feel like I've always had a business mindset back when I was 7 years old with the lemonade stand. And so I feel like I've always had that business mindset, but I did graduate from the University of Georgia with my management and information systems degree. So it's like business and technology put together. And then I ended up getting my master's right before I decided to do real estate full time. I tell agents all the time to go on your own path and kind of figure things out along the way, but pull from your past experiences. And that's what's going to help you, because we can give them, the tools and say, well, this is what I do for marketing, or this is how I present myself. But the best presentation will be being genuinely who you are and pulling from your personal background. Because when you really look at your background, no matter where you come from, no matter what jobs you possess in the back and before you did real estate, it all ties together to why you're here today and who you can help. Because at the end of the day, this is a service-based industry. And so it all ties into who are you meant to serve, and then go after those clients and go after that within your marketing. So even when you're doing social media, you want to make sure it's tailored and not just generic based on what you're seeing other realtors do, but based on who you are genuinely.
So was that something like learned? I mean, where was the passion that made you decide, hey, I'm going to go to school for this. I'm going to learn this. Like what was that trigger? I mean, obviously lemonade stand. I always ask, hey, did you sell blow pops at school? Right. Like
Right.
your mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was, so when I first, business has always been my background. I've always, like I said, lemonade stand, but even further than the lemonade stand, what I would do, we had a lemonade stand in front of my house, which was like a nice cul-de-sac corner. But I realized we were missing a lot of people in the neighborhood. So I would ride my scooter around and advertise for the lemonade stand. And then I started delivering lemonade to my neighbors. But I always had the business mindset of being a little bit more creative or figuring out where's the pain point in the business and then kind of going after the solution for that. But when it comes down to real estate, I bought my first home when I was 22 years old, and I just kind of fell in love with the process. And I realized quickly how it could help me build wealth for myself. And so a few years later, I was like, you know what? I think I want to buy another home. And so I bought my second home, which I ended up renovating, Airbnb-ing it, renting it out, and then eventually selling it. And so I started falling in love with real estate. But when I got my license, I was like, I'm just going to sell to my family and friends. And then my business just began to boom because a lot of people started feeling like I was genuinely there to help them. And it wasn't about the dollar for me. It was more so about really getting them in a position to build wealth for themselves. But what I realized was my marketing was attracting everyone, and those personalities weren't necessarily attractive to me. And so I was experiencing anxiety. I was experiencing like stress because, I was 25 when I got my real estate license. I was still fairly young, and I was like, oh, this is such a big pressure position. And so I realized, you know what? I just want to work with the people that I am meant to work with. And I believe that if I focus on the people that I'm meant to work with, then abundantly they will come to me.
Was that driven out of that worry, to where it was just causing, that anxiety, that worry? Was that just kind of driven like something's off here? It doesn't feel right, or it doesn't like, I'm not happy, like doing this is not something I'm willing to commit to?
It was more so, I'm not an anxiety person. So I felt like, why am I experiencing these feelings of anxiety? And I think it was because so much of the care. It was my first time in a position where, this is my friend or my friend of a friend or a referral, this is their thousands of dollars. And I don't want them to like lose their money because of my inexperience but it's weird because they would have never known that I had those feelings because they were like, you're so confident, you're so young, you're killing it. Like I said, I became a top producer fairly quickly in my market, but I knew internally that something had to shift. And so that's where I feel like within real estate, I was able to really grow within myself, because once you realize this is all a mental game and that everything that you're doing is energetically attracting to you, then you start to realize, let me switch up my energy so that I can really attract in a different type of way.
That is so well put. And the reason I'm kind of hanging around here before we kind of jump in a little bit more to the topic is because it's the one thing that I see, especially real estate agents, miss, right? And that's why they never grasp what I'm saying about you have to become a world-class marketer, and then that just happens to do the thing. And it's understanding what you are the best in the world at. And you said the word that everybody needs to pick up on is the energy. And we all have a superpower. And the question is that who am I best meant to serve
Yes.
that aligns to my strength? Because the magic and I know you're going to get into this, because you wouldn't get to this far if you didn't make this connection, especially playing social media as your primary driver for your growth and of your business, is that understanding what you're the best in the world at, your strength that gives you energy. That's the difference in something that's unique to you and something that you're just exceptional at, is the energy and the passion, right? And that's the distinction that people need to pick up on. It's slight, but distinctions are massive. And when you understand, like, I'm great at this, but it robs me of energy. I'm great at this, but it gives me energy. That's where you have to go. And then from there is then, okay, what promise can I make to the market that I can make and keep that's aligned to my strength and my energy? Okay. That's what I'm hearing you figured out. And you figured it out at a younger age. That's serving you very well. And I just want to hammer home on that point, because the sooner that agents, that small business owners, that people can figure those two things out, then it just becomes magic. It just becomes, like you said, attraction. You attract it. And I think there's a lot of people that do it and they just don't know that it's happening. But once you have that awareness, now you can start to make better choices.
Absolutely.
Is that what happened to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you nailed it, John. I think that a lot of people, because, as we can see with this industry, it is dwindling down with agents, because agents are feeling that burnout. They're feeling that stress, that anxiety of where's my next client. They're scrambling, trying to figure it out, when really the best thing to do is stay still and figure out who you are and what you actually want out of this business, and then go after that. And that's where the marketing comes in. And I teach a class. I teach it multiple times a year, because I tell people and the agents that you grow within your business. At one point, you could say, I'm focused solely on first-time home buyers, and this is my niche, and this is what I want to do to help. And then as you grow, you could switch to that second-time home buyer or investor client. I tell people to stay flexible, but in order to stay flexible, you have to always take a moment to be still and really look within and say, okay, what am I doing? What is my marketing calling for? Because that attraction piece is all tied into our marketing. Because if your marketing is saying this message, that message, and this message, then who are you pulling? Who is supposed to attract to you in this messaging? Or are you even being consistent with what you're saying? So I really, really teach a class I call it the Client Attraction Tracker, where I came up with this attraction kind of way to just provoke thought that I definitely want us to dive into a little bit of understanding who that ideal client is. Because before we can even tap into social media, before I can even tell you what you should even be posting or doing on social media, you have to understand who are you trying to attract here? What is your targeted client? And
perfect. That was going to be my question for you. Like you said, you said sometimes you just have to get still and being able to get into a creative space to where you can kind of think through that. Like, walk us through that process, because it's so important to always, because it's always about the offer and the audience. And even, as the market climate changes, the seasonality changes, inventory levels change, job count, job opportunities, your economic impact, like who's coming in, doing what, who's going out, like what's driving your market, it always changes, right? So it's like, who's the starving audience that has money, that has a problem or a desire that I'm uniquely helped to solve, and then I can craft my offer around it. So talk about that. Talk us through that process of how you uncover that.
Yep. So the first thing you want to do is really think about, who is that person that you enjoy helping? Like, who is that person is, and I know for me, I think that, and I think, well, I really like young couples, because I think it's so cute when they're looking for a home or when they're doing a big decision together, and I can help pull them together. Is it the business professionals? Are you targeting sellers in particularly? Are you targeting agents? Are you targeting mentees? Are you who are you wanting to service right now, or who are you wanting to help? And describing them in as vast or as small, or you can get down to, age range, or, whatever you want. But I try to say, imagine that person, that target client first. Then you want to get down to credibility. Why would they trust you? Because sometimes we hear agents say, I want that luxury client. Well, okay, that's a good description and that's a good client to target. But let's dive into, why would a luxury client trust you? Have you purchased a luxury home before? Do you have luxury connections? Are you what level do you have the experience where you can say you sold X amount of homes before in the past? What area can they trust you? Because a good client is only as good as a trust. So how can that client trust you? Even for that first-time home buyer, can you relate to their experience? And that's where you go into the connectivity. So you describe them, you figure out your credibility, whether that's leveraging your team, whether that's leveraging your past background, whether that's leveraging past sales experience. I went down to, before I did real estate, I was in sales and tech sales with IBM, and I completed the global sales school. So I went down to pull that background and say, hey, I'm certified in global sales school for a Fortune 500 company. And so that is some of the background of why you should be able to trust me within your business or within your transaction. And so coming to that credibility, but then getting into that connectivity. People like to work with who they relate to and who they like. How can you relate to that person? What areas of similarities do you have with that person or that ideal client? Or even if it's, let's say relocation clients, you can have that background of, I've helped X amount of relocation clients, and also I relocated to Atlanta, and I know the experience, and I know what I was looking for, and I can relate to your experience in this way. People feel comfortable when they feel like, okay, this is a credible person that I can connect to.
They're just like me.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing, well, one of the biggest things is visibility. How are they going to see you? You could be the best agent, like you said, John, earlier. You can be the best agent, but if no one knows you're an agent, then no one can experience you. So how are they going to see you? When you think of that ideal client, when you think of that business professional, or when you think of that relocation client, or luxury client, whoever you're targeting, how are they going to see you, reach you? So once you figured out the trust factor, once you figured out the connectivity, the relatability factor, and then you figured out the visibility, which in my case from social media, it comes from email marketing. Once you figured out the visibility, then you dive into the strategy. Because now you have all the key players to now begin to market in your strategy. What are you going to do consistently is the strategy. And the word consistent is the biggest part of your strategy.
Yes.
So you can do things and say, well, I did it, and, I showed my value, I showed, my personality, and it didn't work, but were you consistent? So whatever your strategy is, it needs to be consistent, and everything needs to be very, very intentional. So you need to understand that when I post this on social media, who is this for? Like, what message what do I want people to perceive when I post this? Who am I going after with every single post? No post should not have a blanket statement. It all should have a goal and intentionality behind it. And so that's really where we start there.
No, I love that. And, that's just a great framework to be able to go, right. Going to the audience, the people that you love. And, one of the exercises that like to go through is really, it's around, part of my definition of freedom is, part of that is perfect day, right? So it really is like if you had to live, say perfect day, typical Tuesday, it's just a day that you have to live over and over, a Groundhog Day, if you will. In everybody that I take through that, and so everybody says they work if they're honest, right? And you go through that from the moment you gain consciousness until you fall asleep. What are all the things? And everybody works, even if it's 2 to 4 hours a day. And they're always like, I want to work with, with this type of person. And these are, their qualities. These are the things that keep them up at night. These are their strengths. These are the opportunities that they see. And so it's like, well, why are you not working with those people right now? Right. And so I think you get that grasp in their mind. So you create that audience. What is one of the ways that you prefer to create that credibility?
So, well, now in my career, I create that credibility by every time you see my post, you're going to see at the end of my post, my credentials. You're going to see that I am a top producer. You're going to see I am an EXP icon agent, and I explain what that is, which is top 1% of over 80,000+ agents in our organization. I explain that I did receive the NAR Magazine 30 Under 30, those credentials in the background. But now I have a team of agents that I run, and I also tell them, hey, we're going to have to you all need to get certified. You need to be a certified negotiator. You need to be a certified luxury home marketing specialist. You need to be a certified buyer's agent, because those certifications are going to give you that leverage, especially in today's age with everything that's going on. You need to leverage your value, and you need to leverage the trust. When I got started, I had an amazing mentor in a small boutique brokerage. I leveraged her background heavily, So I leveraged her and said, hey, I'm working with an agent who, X, Y, and Z. So it's leveraging that background of your experience. Like I said, even in my signature now, you can say that I graduated the global sales school. So I have a huge sales background, not even just in real estate, but just sales in general. And so those pieces help with my ideal clients.
How do you help the agents that struggle with a little bit of that imposter syndrome to get those credentials out there, to get those accolades out there? And how much is too much, right? Like we've seen a lot of those agents that you're like, what? Come on. But how do you get them over it? And then knowing that, hey, enough is enough.
Yep. So I think it's really grounded in your own personal confidence. Like I said, I experienced a lot of anxiety for the first time in my entire life being a realtor, but it was not shown. I was so confident about what I was saying and my process and what I was doing. And I was where I was. I didn't really look at others who were doing things that, I would say this, if you're following people that when you look at them, it doesn't feel good for you, just unfollow them. Just kind of like mute them, because you have to be in your own lane, in your own zone, being where you are, because everyone had to start somewhere. And even if those people who intimidate you say, hey, my first year I sold 100 homes, and you're like, oh my gosh, my first year I'm only on my one sale. Be proud of that one sale. I tell my agents, be proud of that, because you are in a different market, you are in a different space in life, and you're in a different headspace. There's balance to everything. I tell people not everyone's a top producer, not because they don't want to be a top producer, or it's because of where you are. You have to be where you are. Like me, for example, I have a young one and another one on the way. I probably can't do as much as I would like to do, but I have to be comfortable with what I can do, what I'm willing to sacrifice, because a lot of people want to be in a certain place, but they don't want to make the sacrifices. They don't want to put in the work that it takes to be in that place. And that is okay. So just be where you are and in your lane, so that you don't have to feel like, oh, if I don't sell 10 houses a month and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, no, I'm comfortable, I'm happy, and I'm balanced, and I'm in my lane, and I'm doing what I want to do. And any desire that I have, I'm on the way to reach that desire. So if
Yeah.
I desire 10 homes, if I stay consistent, I am on the way there.
Yeah. No. Well, congratulations for one.
Thank you.
And the concept and everything you're talking about, and it's why it's my number one book recommendation. It's The Gap in the Gain with Dan Sullivan, and it's so powerful once you have that concept and you understand it, because it's so easy to start to compare yourself to others, and or compare yourself, well, I'm not as far as I think I believe I should be. And that puts you into a spiral and puts you into the gap.
Mhm.
And what he talks about to get out of that is that you just have to measure how far you've come.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's remarkable that certain people can accomplish things a little bit quicker than others. But for the most part, there's a lot of time that goes in, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I got licensed in January of '05, right? So it's like, I've been in this game for a minute, and I've seen a lot of things, right? To be able to have those distinctions and see around corners and no, don't do that. But that just takes time. And I think when
Mhm.
you understand the gap in the gain concept, that will keep you out of what you're really talking about. I guess make a distinction real quick, Courtney, on the difference in credibility and proof.
Mhm.
Where do you start to layer proof into this process?
Yep. So the proof is usually in case studies. So that's usually, in my opinion, when you start to say, well, here's what I've done for others in this particular case scenario. So if you find yourself liking a certain niche, let's say it is foreclosures or sellers are in distressed positions, then you can say, hey, I've helped this seller that was distressed by doing this strategy, and this is how I know I can help you all. And honestly, you really only need one case study before you just become an expert. And to touch on also the credentials when it becomes a little bit too, well, the comparison, I think in our industry, more so than any other, I call our industry an entrepreneur business. In our business, in more than any other entrepreneurship, we kind of have to brag. And it sucks for other agents because you're looking like, oh my gosh, this person is so amazing. Well, they're supposed to be. They're supposed to market themselves as amazing, because really that bragging or that feeling of accomplishment, I'm a very humble and quiet person. So I hate having to tell people all the things that I've accomplished sometimes, but I know I have to do it in order to get that credibility, in
Uh-huh.
order to get that proof, in order to be able to expose myself to more clientele. I have to kind of brag a little bit. And I think that for other agents, you have to understand that these are marketing strategies.
Uh-huh.
So you have to figure out, like you said, like how far you've come and where can you brag? Because if you stop looking at what everyone else is doing, I have an agent who's a mentee that I was impressed that I didn't know that she owned 2 homes. And I said, you need to say that to people, because even though for you, you may feel like that's a small feat, there's so many clients that are wanting that second home. There's so many people that want to own multiple properties, but they don't know the process of doing that. They don't know how to do that. And now, because you have done it, you are now easily the expert to them.
Yeah.
And so there's so many ways that we can be within our own lane and be the expert. Even I have mentees, they're like, well, I'm a real estate agent. I never bought a home before. Perfect. Document your process. When you get ready to buy a home, create that entire process for yourself, because now you become relatable. And now people are like, oh my goodness, like they're rooting for you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, the thing, what you just touched on really is you have to be able to connect with their heart before you can connect with their head. And the heart component, first heart interaction with them is, why you should listen to me. And
Mm-hmm.
then why I'm just like you.
Yep.
And then the third component to a great heart connection in the first interactions is why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the trifecta to connect with the heart. And that works in podcasts, that works from stage, that works from anything. And when you see the great presenters and speakers, that's the format, right? So the opening format, and I want to share this because I think this will help people get over the fear of this is not about me, right? I'm the guide in their journey. However, they have to trust you as the guide.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, these are my accolades. This is why you should listen to me, but this is why I'm just like you. And it's just this perfect scenario you said is like, I relocated to Atlanta and I had to figure all of this out. And I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what resources to build. I didn't know all of these things. Right. And so you have to tell that story. And then it's like, I relocated here. This is why I do what I do. And this is why I'm in this industry, being able to make that impact and help these families have that transformation in their life. But I think that's like, people have to understand that, right? Once you have a market and you start to see things, you see that they will have some of those components, but they don't put all three together. And it takes all three to make that connection stick. And so being able to combine that, I want to jump down here because I want to really obviously get to the platforms. And obviously if everybody's listening in at this point, they're like, when is she going to talk about TikTok and Instagram? Like, I think what people need to understand is like, it doesn't matter. Like, we got to top 10 in the world through, it wasn't through social media. Social media wasn't even a thing. And we were top 10 in the world. Mm-hmm. We played the mediums where the eyeballs were. So we'll get to that. But you said one thing that's the most important that people have to get. Because what happens when the US shuts off TikTok tomorrow? Mm-hmm. What happens when Meta goes, hey man, we're good. Pull the plug, Instagram's gone. What happens when the people at Google go, we created enough video. We're not going to allow anybody to put more video on YouTube. We're good. What happens? What do you do? And you said the key word, and I wasn't going to let it slip. You said, where is my email list? Mm-hmm. Where is my list? Talk about that. Because I think this is the biggest get that people have to understand. It's all about the list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I honestly wish I would have understood that my first 3 years in real estate, But it is, because what happens is when you first get started, you think that you start off with one client, you start off with two clients, and you're like, okay, I'll never forget them. And then years go by and then time happens, or you meet someone randomly and you get their information. What are you doing with that? Are you compiling that? Are you touching them? Because I'm a big feely person, which we probably understand by now. But so I usually go off of, I feel like I should call someone. So let me just call them. But what happens when I'm off my game, or when I don't feel like doing anything? Yeah. There has to be some type of database behind you. There has to be some type of system behind you, CRM, something holding you accountable to those people. And email is really a good way to stay top of mind. It's a good way to let people know what you're doing, what you have going on. And honestly, I am a big believer in social media, but there has to be something behind that as well. And so to touch on social media, I do use Instagram. I use Instagram as a resume. I always tell people, for me, Instagram is a way for me to keep up my sphere of influence. But with any platform, like you were saying, anything can go away. Any platform can go away. So you do want to diversify your platforms that you're on. Some people just stay strictly to Facebook, and it works until it doesn't work anymore because a new hottest thing just came out. Yeah. So you want to diversify, but you want to go where I tell people this: find your people, find your place, because your people, they're somewhere. They are somewhere. They could be on TikTok, they could be on Threads, they can be on Twitter, they can be on Facebook, they can be on Instagram, they could be on YouTube. They are somewhere. But if you hone in on something and you're finding that you've been consistently doing something that's not working, it's a couple of reasons why on social media where it could not be working for you. One, that's not the place you should be. And most people are in the wrong places, posting the wrong things because they don't use that platform. If you do not use Instagram, it's going to be really hard for you to understand what you should post because you're not consistently and you're not absorbing the content. You're not engaging with people on there. So how can you even really know what other people want to see if you're not even using the platform? So I see agents, they'll pay for, or they'll have generic post every single day and have no engagement. Or if they do have some engagement, they're not even responding back to comments. You're not even liking other people's pictures, or you're not even commenting on other people's stories, or you're not even personalizing it to yourself on your day-to-day of what you're doing today. You have to use the platform. You have to be a user. You have to be a user of the platform. And if you're not going to be a user of the platform, you at the very least have to engage in the platform. When I first got my license, I worked before I even got my license, I was a mentee with a KW agent. She had been in the game for 10 plus years and was really excited because she just on her 10th year sold and made six figures. And so I was like, okay, and so I'm mentoring with her. And this is back in 2018. And I started to say, I think there's a market on Instagram. And she's like, no. Like that's nothing there. There's nothing there. And so I created her a page and I said, I think you should be here. Because that's when I was starting to realize, hey, there's a lot of realtors here. And when I was looking at hashtags and I was like, I don't know, I think there's something here. And she was committed to her way of doing business. And so I ended up leaving that mentor and going with the next mentor who sold six figures her first year in real estate and got all of her business off of Instagram. I bought a house from her from Instagram. So I was realizing the power of Instagram. So I created my page, and what I ended up doing every single day, I followed the max amount of people you can follow on Instagram. I was engaging in that content so hard to be able, where Instagram would say, okay, you followed enough people today.
Breathe. Courtney, take a break. Breathe.
Right. You're going to have to stop here.
Yeah.
I was doing it consistently every day. It was to the point that when I started generating business, I hired a VA to start adding people every day. And then I was engaging in comments. And then I would see when there would be like generic house posts, there'd be 100 comments. I was following every person that was under that comment because I'm like, well, you're engaging in real estate in Atlanta. I'm going to follow you so you can see what I'm doing too. So I was really hyper focused on building my Instagram, because some people will say, well, I don't have any followers or I'm not building. Well, are you focused on building it? And to be focused on building, I'm telling you, I was following hundreds of people a day. And those who didn't follow me back, I would unfollow, because you got to make sure you can't be having too much follow. Your ratio has to look pretty good. But it was consistent. Because I saw it work, and I had an agent who is now mentoring me, and she had organically built these followers. But I was like, let me build this. Let me start building this Instagram.
So this is such a great point as we're transitioning into this, because there's only three things in business, right? It can only be traffic, conversion, and fulfillment. And so the fulfillment side of things, is there, right? Once a client agrees to do business with us, then we get them the result. We fulfill on the promise. But then, for the most part, and, every room I go into, every conversation, I always kind of get a gauge of who's struggling and where they're at. Right. And so, most of the time, 99% of the time is more traffic, right? More traffic, more leads, more opportunities, but then being able to convert those. And so I think when we look at traffic, and in the sense of what we're talking about here, and I want you to give some keys to it. And you gave a great key right here to it, right? Be a user and engage, right? I think that's a fundamental key to to the opportunity to create opportunities to convert, to even have the opportunity to fulfill on the promise. So, Courtney, give some keys to, okay, hey, this is great to create some traffic, but this is fundamental. If you don't do these things, then you're never going to even create an opportunity from obviously just what we're talking about here with TikTok and Instagram.
Yep. I think the biggest thing you have to do on social media, and that's especially Instagram and TikTok, well, social media in general, is showcase who you are. So posting, there's an art to it now, but in order to convert, you have to be genuinely who you are.
Mm.
But you can also create a persona. So I believe in having multiple brand personas. So who I am on Instagram is different persona than who I am on TikTok. If you go to my TikTok, you will see my daughter, you will see my family, you will see real estate, you will see more day in the lives. But on Instagram, you will see a persona of a top producing real estate agent. And so, because each platform has different markets of who they are trying to, not, or who's using that market. So a lot of people that are on TikTok will talk about people who are on Instagram because they know that most people on Instagram are not using TikTok. They're different markets there. And so you have to cater to that market. Now, I'm not saying that every popular, or you have to be, your face has to be there, because I do have a TikTok page that does not show my face. It's a faceless TikTok page that shows house tours that convert. Like I get so many appointments off of that TikTok. I'm actually in a house appointment from that TikTok page. Because as soon as I jump off of here, I have to do a photo shoot here. But
so with that, do you see that you're getting, is it balanced, or do you see more buyers or more seller opportunities when you're showcasing properties like that?
It's balanced, because let's say, okay, so I'm going to jump from Instagram. I'm going to go to TikTok. So on TikTok, I posted consistently. I was a user in 2021, because in 2020, that's when TikTok kind of got started. My husband's like, you need to be on here. I'm like, oh, whatever. Then 2021, I became like obsessed with TikTok. And I should have joined then. But then 2022, I said, you know what? I'm going to commit to being not just a watcher. It's easy to be a watcher on TikTok, but just to be a creator. So I would decide to be a creator. When you are deciding to be a creator for the first time, you have to diversify what you create to figure out what works. Because days in a life works for some people, but it may not work for you. House tours work for some people, but it may not work for you. So you have to figure out, find your people, find your place. You have to figure out, where are my people here? When I was posting on my page, it was a very diversified post, because I was trying to figure out, where was the algorithm sending me? Like, where did people relate? That's when I realized people love house tours. People just love looking at quick 1-minute house tours. And I started getting really good at with the camera on house tours. Because of that, I realized I created a separate page called Atlanta Home Tours, because I realized a lot of people that were relocating that was not from Atlanta would go to TikTok and look at Atlanta Home Tours, and they would want to buy a house. I'd niche it to new construction. I called myself, I'm a big believer in just you be whoever you want to be on whatever platform you want to be. But I called myself a new construction specialist. And I did that because I realized a lot of relocation clients like new construction, and it's so easy to transfer or to time it out right with the moving process. So I became a new construction specialist on TikTok, and I posted new construction house tours. And I really just got really good at that. I started converting. I believe last year I did at least 5 deals with TikTok clients. And this year, even right now, for example, this seller reached out to me. Right now, we are listing her home for 1.5 million. And she reached out to me because we are 2 hours, hour and a half outside of the city of Atlanta. And she said, I really want an Atlanta agent because this house is gorgeous. She was like, my house is very unique property that needs a very unique exposure. And I see how you use TikTok and I see how your engagement is on TikTok. And I want a realtor who is savvy in social media that is going to be able to utilize social media to get more exposure on this house because not a lot of people are going to be looking an hour and a half outside of Atlanta.
I love it. I love that. And you know, I want to keep us kind of moving here to get some more keys to the traffic and the conversion side of things. But I loved what you keep saying. Find your people, find your place. I would throw a little caveat in there. Find your people, find your place that have your money.
Yeah.
Right? Who's got your money? And I think that's, you know, we get engagement and we get that, you know, those hits of, you know, that make us feel so good about it. Oh, they really like me. They like my stuff. They can like your stuff, but if they ain't going to give you their money, then you need to go find the people that got money. And so I think that's the other thing that I see where people get tripped up with social too much is that they've got they've got audience, a lot of great engagement, but like, how are you monetizing those platforms for what it is that you're trying to do? So we've got, you know, find your people, find your place that got your money. We've got be a user, engage, decide to get off the sidelines and create at some point. Absolutely. Find the platform, right? Find what works for you. Do you see also that, I mean, is it different age as well, or really not? It's age, demographic, everything is just scattered across all platforms.
Yep. I find TikTok though is where I've been preaching it to my agents since last year. TikTok is where every agent should be because of the algorithm. Instagram limits you. That's why I utilize Instagram for my sphere of influence, because 9 times out of 10 it's not pushing it out to people who do not already follow you. TikTok, you could post a random video one day and it goes to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I did one house tour, a new construction house tour that got over 300,000 views and so many books consultation from that tour alone. And you just never know which one's going to do it, you know. So that's why.
You never know. I think the other marketing principle there, Courtney, that I want to hit on, and you know this, and you said it, is that marketing's about testing.
Yep.
And it's always testing. You're always testing. You're always testing because the puck is always moving. And so some things are going to work, and then some things work for a while, and then they just don't. Like you said, hey, you're good over here until you're not. So I think just with that open mindset of like, okay, where are things moving? Where do I need to be? What's working? What's not? Let's do a little bit more of that. Oh, that didn't work anymore. But the fundamental thing, right? So like, I said, shared, business is just traffic, conversion, fulfillment. There's only three things, three problems, but it comes down to the equation for business is offers minus no's equals yeses. And so if you're not getting enough yeses, then you're not getting enough no's. And if you're not getting enough no's, you're not making enough offers, right? Just back to your lemonade stand example in the cul-de-sac, you can only make so many offers inside of the cul-de-sac until you hop on the scooter, and now you're out making more offers. So I just hope everybody makes that connection of what we're talking about here. So one of the biggest thing that I see, everything you're saying is so on point. One of the biggest things that I see is that just agents fail to make any type of offer, any type of call to action on social. So what's the balance? What is it for you that gets obviously the engagement, but how do you get them to subscribe to want to take things a little bit further with you?
I think that's where it all ties into intentionality. What was your intentions for this post? I see a lot of agents, they post and it's like entertainment type posts. And that does work if you do it right, because you have to understand, what was the intentions for this post? What were you intending for this person to receive out of this post? And like you said, what is the call of action? So for the longest in my Instagram post, when you look at it, I will do this status. So every time I sell a house, I'm posting it for my clients. But when I post about it, my description of, who I sold to, I always put the word trust in there because that's big for me. I realized a long time ago, if my clients don't trust me, the transaction goes crazy. So I always use the word trust because I want to attract trust. And then at the end of that post, I put buyers. If you're looking for 1% down, or if you're looking for this loan, contact me. Developers, or if you're looking for off-market properties, contact me. Sellers, if you're looking to do X, Y, and Z, contact me. That's giving them that. What I would do in those scenarios is calling towards a certain person. So if there's a seller that is, if I'm posting about how I sold a home, or I post about, oh, this house looks really nice, someone's going to relate when you specifically call them out. If you specifically say, sellers, if you're looking to sell your home without putting any money up front into getting it ready, contact me. A seller who is looking to sell their home that doesn't want to put any money up front, they're going to say, ooh, I need to call her. Because I don't want to put any money up front. And I think I have to. And I don't have to. Or if you're posting a house tour and you say, buyers, they are giving $10,000 off if you come with me, that buyer might say, hey, I like this house. I need to contact her because me as a realtor, I'm tying the incentive from the new construction with working with me to get that incentive. And so if you want to get this incentive, you have to come to me.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out a way to call out people to say, hey, this is, because when people feel like that felt personal, or some people say it was a sign when you posted this, when they feel like it's a sign, it's personal, and that's understanding who you're targeting. That's understanding, that's being very intentional on what is this post supposed to do for people. Like, don't just say that you sold a home. And, it is good for the client because a lot of clients like to be congratulated in that way. But don't just say you sold a home without showcasing why you want more of whatever you just did.
Yeah. So good. Courtney, I mean, you are exactly everything that these expert mentor, conversations in this series, 254 deep, and we're going to keep rolling, is absolutely all about coming in here, bringing just absolute fire and adding nothing but value. I mean, I've got a page of notes, and I know everybody listening into this, the same. So, I mean, we can go Joe Rogan style. We could be going for another 3 or 4 hours with this. So, I know, fantastic. I really appreciate you carving out the time, jumping in here. I'm definitely going to have to say, Nicola, thank you. And I know we're going to have to do this again. So, Courtney, what is the best way for everybody, tuning in this amazing Honey Badger Nation community to be able to tap in and get connected with you?
Absolutely. Follow me on Instagram. It's Courtney Knows Realty on Instagram and on TikTok. So definitely follow me. I'm open to answering questions if anyone has any questions. But the biggest thing I would also say when you all follow me or any other Instagram influencer that you see or feel like is doing really good, don't just look at their posts, look at their marketing. Look at how they're posting. Look at what they're posting, what they're saying. Don't just take it in as a consumer. I switched my brain from a consumer to a marketer. So when I see agents or when I see people post, or even if it's like different business owners, I look at the marketing strategy. I don't just look at what they're posting. I look at how are they marketing. And that will allow you to switch your brain and turn your brain on to a different level of social media influencing.
That'll be our next conversation. That'll be part 2. We'll get into marketing strategy. So I'll look forward to that conversation in the very near future. Courtney, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. You guys connect with Courtney, give her lots of love, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. See ya.
Bye, guys.